morning to all of you Moogles, Chocobos, and Tonberries out there. My name is Ravlin. I'm one of the admins of the Worlds Collide community. Here doing some commentary for Seto. Seto, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Seto Kiaba. I've been running this randomizer since spring of 2021. I've done 1 or 2 runs, and hopefully we're going to see a good one today.
And I'm Opal Juice. I've only been doing commentary for a few weeks, really, but Seto and I have been friends for a long time, and I'm happy to be here to support him. And Rav, if you want to get us going.
All right, just before I do the countdown, just so that you're aware of what we're going to see, this is an open world randomizer for Final Fantasy VI. We are going to start off with the airship and a few characters, and we're going to go from there. Seto, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so. So we'll kind of be, you'll see me kind of be going around a little bit, and my goal is to get, you can see here with the objectives, I have to find 6 characters and 9 espers, and Ravlin and George will go into more detail with that as we go, but that is kind of the goal of the randomizer I'm hunting for these requirements. So yeah, if you want to do a countdown.
All right, let's go in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, to start off, welcome to Worlds Collide. As you can see, we're starting on the airship, and we've got a Shadow, Cyan, and Sabin start. You can see that he really quickly went through all of these status screens there to see what abilities these characters have. I noticed a lore and a natural magic going on the way through. You will notice that this is one of the things that is randomized here. These characters do not have the abilities that they have in vanilla, although supposedly they could. Depending on how the randomizer is feeling. So starting off here, he is going to be looking for various treasures and items, trying to find some tools to get his way through this seed. While he's going through, he's going to be looking at a bunch of checks, and the way this randomizer works is each character opens up a check. A check is an event or a location or a thing from the vanilla game that gives a reward at the end of it. So for example, Shadow here will open up the floating continent, he will open up Gao's dad's house, and the cave in the Veldt in the World of Ruin. Once you complete one of these checks, it will give you a reward, which can be a character, an esper, or a high-tier item. So we are starting off here with a little bit of shopping, just trying to get a few things, a few Phoenix Downs, a few Warp Stones, just to try to make everything go fast, and checking through for some particularly valuable items, in this case earrings. Earrings do increase the magic damage. Magic is very, very powerful in this game, as anyone who's played the vanilla game can tell you.
And that's worth noting, is the items in the shops have also been randomized. So if you see Seto going to a particular city to visit a particular shop, it's not just because he knows that something is going to be there, he's checking to see if something useful is going to be there. And some of these items are extremely useful because they have abilities, if you've ever played the game, outside of their original intended abilities, or rather outside of their common use. You know, for example, breaking rods allows you to cast high-level magic even if you don't actually have access to it. And when you're at an extremely low level, where we are right now, that can make particular boss fights, if you're prepared going into them, a breeze.
One thing I want to point out is a little bit different than other runs. One of my starting abilities is Throw, which requires me to buy things like Skeins and Shurikens. So that means that I'm looking for some different things than I would on most runs as well. So that is already something random that is changing my strategy as I go.
Absolutely. So in addition to shop contents, character and esper locations are randomized, treasure chests are randomized, monster and boss locations are also randomized. So even if we go to, say, the Welk spot in Narsh, chances are it will not be the Welk waiting for us there. The spells and bonuses that espers teach and give you upon level up are randomized, and equipment is what I call sort of randomized. The stats and abilities of each piece of equipment is as it is in vanilla. However, who can equip it is the normal people who can equip it, plus every character gets a 30% chance to be able to equip a given item. So, you know, characters like Celis and Edgar would be able to equip the Ragnarok as they are in vanilla. but also a character like Strago would have a 30% chance of being able to equip it as well.
And speaking of level up, maybe we should take a second to explain because, of course, we're not starting from the beginning of the game. So how are levels, and particularly the levels of enemies, calculated?
Yes. So one of the great things about this randomizer is that it is highly customizable, but we are playing on sort of what we call our standard racing flags, or a close approximation thereof. And typically how the enemies are scaled is what we call a progression scaling. So for each character and Esper that you get, the enemies will gain 2 levels. There is a distortion in there. I believe it's plus or minus 2 levels as well, just so that you can't go, oh, I know all my enemies are level 10, I'm going to use level 5 death. And no, we thought of that and prevented that particular bit of cheese. That's not to say there isn't a lot of cheese in these runs, because there really is. And that's half of the fun. So as of right now, the enemies are going to be roughly level 6, again, plus or minus a little bit, because you start with 3 characters.
And speaking of starting with those characters, I know Seto alluded to the fact that, you know, the abilities are going to make a difference in his strategy, but as you mentioned earlier, the checks are unlocked by which characters you have. And we knew going into this that we were going to have Shadow, because Shadow won the donation race, which, by the way, thanks everybody for their donations. That was very generous of everyone. But aside from that, Seto didn't know who else was going to be in his party, so he didn't know who was going to be available. So, like, Floating Continent, not the greatest series of checks to get because it's really long. But in terms of the other checks that are going to become available to him as he finds more characters, how do you plan your strategy around something that's constantly shifting like that?
The way I approach it is I sort of approach it as a, you know, in this moment, what is the next best thing that I can do? So starting off here, when you're level 3 and your enemies are level 6, if you go and do immediately a check that doesn't have any battles in it, you're going to increase the strength of your enemies without increasing your own strength. So that is one of those calculated risks you can take. You can either try to go to, say, Gao's dad's house, where you would normally find Shadow during the 3 scenarios at the beginning of Saban's scenario, or you can try to maybe do something like Doma Castle, which Cyan opens, which has a boss battle in it, and see what that boss battle is, and, you know, see if you can find your way through it. Right now, I still see Seto looking for items, looking for that one thing that is going to sort of unlock the seed, unlock the ability to move forward. You know,
it already, but I was looking for money.
Looking for money. You found the fixed dice earlier, right?
Yeah. I'm probably going to go back and pick one of those up, I think. Because I have some more of these as well.
Yes. So, like, at this early stage of the game, the things that, you know, we're looking for are things like breakable rods that you mentioned, particularly powerful weapon, or something like super balls, something like that that can, you know, really do a consistent amount of damage. You know, if we have the throw ability, we're going to be looking for shurikens and skeins, things like that. One of the things that we did find was the fixed dice. Fixed dice are one of those items that breaks the rules of traditional damage. If you've played it in vanilla, fixed dice, it literally rolls 3 dice on the screen. It multiplies those 3 numbers by your level, and that's your damage.
Shout out to Boo the Runner. Fixed dice is his favorite weapon, so you really have to honor him with it whenever I find it.
And, you know, that particular item, it ignores defense, it ignores your strength, or strength/vigor score, it ignores everything else. It is just that pure mathematical, you know, level times these numbers. So it's very, very easy to get a very, very high damage roll pretty early. Because you don't have to worry about, oh, this enemy has really high defense. Oh, that's cute.
Right. And that's worth noting as well, is that the bosses, though they are in, let's call them swapped locations, because it's not like you're going to run into a boss in the overworld, but you're going to run into the wrong boss when you get to a certain point. That, as opposed to playing the vanilla game where you can go, oh, I know where this boss is, I know what they absorb, I know what they're immune to, I know what kind of spells they cast. you're flying by the seat of your pants here, or the seat of your robe. I don't know, whatever. And so there's a huge amount of kind of needing to be prepared for everything. And as you can imagine, the mental load going on, with Seto right now is enormous. And to be menuing this fast and to be progressing through the game this quickly, doing all these checks and keeping them all in the right order, like it's really a showcase of skill.
Absolutely, and it's a showcase of a different kind of skill than sort of a traditional speedrun, as you were saying, when you know that the first boss you're going to hit is Welk. You know exactly what inputs you need to do in what order, and you can plan your entire run around a particularly challenging boss or a particularly tough moment. Here, you just sort of need to be ready for whatever's going to come your way. So right now he's going through what I call the true final boss here of Worlds Collide, and that is the menu. You can very easily spend huge amounts of time menuing, getting everything just perfect. And one of the things here is that perfect is the enemy of the fast. You want to be good enough. So we're going to save, and we're going to head in here. The Imperial Camp, this is a check that Sabin opens up, and one of the things that's nice about it, even though it has some of these cutscenes that eat up a little bit of time, it also has several battles that happen. And depending on what monsters are in these battles, you can get a lot of levels very quickly here. And there's also a few treasure chests around that you can grab, just to keep everything as efficient as possible.
Sadly, I wanted to get an Esper or character at that shadow check that make the enemies actually stronger, because then they also get more experience, and I unfortunately couldn't, so we're not going to get as much experience as I would like, sadly.
We can't win every battle.
Well, I hope we don't win every battle, or else this could be a pretty long random speedrun.
I mean, I'll donate $10 for every time you wipe.
Oh, you know what?
I'll match that, sure.
I'll get in on that.
Right.
But if you start throwing, I am going to find a way to make you pay for it.
If I don't wipe at all, though, I'll donate 100 to make up for it.
Oh, dang.
I'll match that.
We actually got a few donations.
Go for it.
Starting off with Subsorian, donated $60. Wait a second, this isn't Crystal Chronicles. Javanator donated $100. He said, zoom, zoom for the kids, friends. Ben also donated $25, saying go Seto. And then last but not least, your favorite healer donated $20. Says, time the blast. Congrats on your run, and Bahamut's next.
If we're lucky.
Yes. So as you can see, there's an imp here. What that means is that it means it is not a character that we're going to get here. Cyan going down there is unfortunate. That means he won't get any XP from this particular battle here, but Shadow and Sabin still will. That imp meant it was not a character, so we got our first Esper of the run. It is Siren. At some point we will take a look at it and see what spells are on it, but that's one of those things you want to sort of hold off and do a bunch of menuing all at once, so that you're not opening up the menu and doing something and closing it, and then opening up the menu and doing... Yeah.
Right, and that was something that that I was going to mention too. Is actually saving the game. There are, I think, 1 or 2 points in the game where it makes sense to save and then go forward to check something, because at that point it would be faster to reload your save. But otherwise, you're not going to see Seto doing a lot of saving here. Maybe a little bit more in this run than we would in a traditional race, just for marathon save strats. But yeah, you're often flying without a net.
Right, and again, that is part of the gotta go fast. If you're going to save every single time, that is your prerogative. It's just going to take a while, and that's totally fine. There are 100 different ways to play this randomizer. You can play it, while you're racing. You can play it for just, fun and enjoyment. But if you want to get into the racing, you really need to start figuring out how to do it quickly. So this particular check here, Doma Castle, has all these soldiers, and sometimes those soldiers can give you another good battle. It'll be a repeatable battle. You'll know exactly what it is. So that's why it's useful. Atmo Weapon as a boss is one of those that I distinctly remember this boss as a kid, and it really struggled for me. Like, I really struggled to get past Atma Weapon, you know, when I was 8, 9.
Don't date yourself here. We can just when I was a child. But yeah, there's definitely sort of a tier list of bosses that are unfortunate to come up against early in the game, just due to the either the elements that they absorb or the level of defense that they have. If you don't have a weapon like fixed dice that ignores defense, where's Atma Weapon on that tier list?
That's about mid. He's got a glass cannon. He has a lot of HP, and he hits hard, but he has like very low defense and everything. So it's kind of just a race against him. So luckily he didn't do any mean moves. So I was a little scared because if he decided he was just going to do Quake, maybe reset and be trying again and all that. So he can be rude.
Yep. And you saw Shadow there learned a whole bunch of magic all at once, and we got another Magicite here, Crusader. While you're going through the game, occasionally summoning an Esper for its ability is going to be useful. There's really only 2 or 3 Espers that are regularly used for their abilities, and that's going to be Golem and Fenrir are the top 2, and they're really used for the final Kefka battle.
Right, yeah, and let's talk about that, because the reason why we set up needing to get a certain number of Espers and a certain number of characters is because that is the point at which you can go to Kefka's Tower. And so... Ooh, jumping off the cliff, huh? And so, once you get into Kefka's Tower, like, the Kefka boss fight is fixed. That is the only one in the game where you know which boss it's going to be, and his script, I believe, is unchanged from vanilla.
Correct. That is one thing that we learned in the early days of this randomizer. It was really different when we found that it could become very challenging to have a fair battle between different people racing the same seed if the final Kefka battle scaled with you. Because if, you know, you took a left turn and I took a right turn and I had to do 3 more checks than you did, well, suddenly my final Kefka was way harder than yours because he was 6 levels higher. So what we ended up doing and making a choice is typically we find that that the final Kefka battle is unscaled. It is as it is in vanilla. It is the same level, the same HP, the same stats, the same script, the same everything. And that does a couple of things. One, it gives you a target to aim for. Like, everyone knows your final Kefka battle is going to be the same. You know what to do, what to prepare for, and what you're going to need to prepare for. It also just made it so that, you know, if you and I take different routes through the game, it's going to, you know, be a fair comparison between us. Unlike a lot of other randomizers, this one does not have a prescripted route through each seed. Because it's just a number of characters and a number of Espers, there are many, many seeds where there are 3 or 4 different routes that you can go to get that final goal.
And I kind of like it because I'm already planning out how the end is going to go, because it's a known state, right? So you mentioned that there are, you know, the Espers that I've been getting aren't, you know, that there are 2 that are useful. Actually, I would slightly disagree in that Siren that I got is also useful, and we can talk about that when we get to the final boss, but that will have use as the final boss, as well. So I'm already planning out how I'm going to be approaching the end game, and so I kind of like the fact that we know exactly what the final boss is going to be like.
Right. And also a lot of times with the scaling, you know, even if you go through, if you get everything you need, enemies are going to be scaled around level 40, 42, and vanilla final Kefka is around level 72. So it would feel this like really anticlimactic final boss fight, and we didn't like that, so we chose to keep it unscaled.
And that, I think, is an interesting aspect of this randomizer, is how much community support there is and how it's already been built to be customized, to really support a variety of playstyles and a variety of goals when you're playing. You know, like we talked about, you know, sort of the race standard seed, or the race standard set of flags, but you can just go nuts. You can do all kinds of stuff with this. The tools are all available for you, and so you don't need to feel intimidated. Oh, wow.
That's fixed this for you. Sometimes it's going to end the fight immediately.
Yeah, so you don't need to feel intimidated to be like, oh, there's no way I could do this in you know, an hour and 30 minutes. It takes me 5 hours to finish, and that's fine. You can do that.
Hey, I heard you liked armor, so I'm going to give you a snow muffler and 2 Minerva.
I've been averaging 1 dead check in each of my practices, so now we're at 3. So that sounds about right. It's just like you're having way too much.
Your last couple practice runs just went entirely too well.
Yeah, it's my fault. I
It's
should have played worse.
the universe is just, you know, bending back towards the mean.
Yep.
And I mean, that was a pun.
Yeah, so a dead check here is just a check that isn't a character or an Esper. It's not giving us progression to that final boss, to that final goal. However, you know, Minervas and Snow Mufflers are really, really good items. Like, they are very good. We are never sad to see them.
If people can equip them, which I don't know yet if anyone can equip this or not.
Right. We have not checked yet. But each one of these characters has roughly a 30% chance. So hopefully.
Yeah, and this is something that's kind of cool about Worlds Collide is that everyone has different play styles. And for me, I actually devalue armor a lot. If they can equip them, it's going to be great. But that's why I've picked them up. You actually haven't seen me even try to equip them yet, because I view that as a time loss to go into the menu to attempt that, to even bother equipping them. I think I'm a little more the minority in the community with that front, but I'm going to believe if I just kill the enemy before he hits me, then why do you need armor? But like everyone has different strategies, right? And that's like one of the cool things is we all come with different approaches, and therefore also like learn from each other as we watch each other's runs and races.
Yeah.
You talking about that strategy makes me slightly regret agreeing to give $10 if you want.
And no one can equip any of them, so well at least I can sell them for a good amount of money. That's fine.
And you're going to pick up some more characters later.
I hope so.
Yeah, or not. We could be here forever.
That would be a thing.
But actually, speaking of that, in terms of, you know, getting a series of bad checks, there is a little bit of anti-frustration that the community has agreed on, where if you end up getting way too many characters or way too many Espers, you do get to skip part of Kefka's Tower. Where's my wallet?
I guess you'll count those as wipes resets. I mean, I wouldn't have died there, but we'd be staring at a screen doing nothing for a minute, so that's obviously not what we want to do.
I'll donate for that.
Yeah, I'll donate for that too.
So what we have here is we're trying to fight one of these dragons. The dragons in particular give a metric boatload of XP and magic learning points. They also give their traditional reward in addition to their also give another high tier item. So if anything goes like what we expect to see here, I am going to see another Minerva or Snow Muffler here as the reward.
Why are you doing this to me, man?
Because I'm here for the lulz.
It is true.
Yeah, we're on the game side. We're not on your side.
It's all for charity here. I'll donate $10 for every Minerva or Snow Muffler I end up with.
It was a behemoth suit. The behemoth suit is almost a more offensive piece of armor because it does give you some magic ability as well. So, you know, it can be seen as a little bit more offensive. Wow.
I'd like to mention that this seed was vetted by the Swants, vetted to be marathon safe. Make sure you give shout out to Swants for this, very, very fast seed. But thank you actually a lot to the Swants he did a lot of work to make sure that 6 seeds were vetted for all the different donation incentives. He really worked really hard, jokes aside and everything.
Yeah, it really is, like I was saying, it is a really incredible community, coming together for events like this and, and the Racing GDQ that you did. It's, like I said, I've only been part of the community really for a few weeks, and everyone is just awesome, so supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. The community is my favorite part of this, and I'm not just saying that because I'm one of the admins of the community. It really is. Last I checked, there were roughly about 2,000 people in the Discord who have joined, and I did some math recently. Due to Worlds Collide, either directly from the community or being part of various events, we've raised about $40,000 for charity thus far, so I'm really proud of our, relatively small community for having a truly outsized impact on the world.
Definitely, definitely.
Let's make that $45,000 by the end.
Let's see what we can do here. Zach Moberg donated $5. Said, good luck, runners. And they also have a question for the crew on stage. What is your favorite Final Fantasy monster? Keep up the good work, and let's raise money for charity.
Oh man, that's tough.
Favorite monster? Probably the Tonberries.
Very classic.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for the Tonberries. I'm a big fan of Omega Weapon. I love the secret bosses. Yeah, probably go with that.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy who hates Muscleheads, Ultras, as my favorite enemy. So I don't know. He always makes you laugh in every cameo he does and everything, including when he cameoed on a wrestling show last year.
Yeah, I mean, there are also some of the other classic enemies out there. Cactars have been in almost every Final Fantasy game out there. There are even some out there where Chocobos and Moogles are enemies that you can fight. And I have a thing for Moogles, so,
Makes
throw
sense.
that out there as well.
Yeah, I guess technically Umaru, you can fight him.
That's
so
true.
Does that count? 'Cause
Well, I mean, he's not recurring. I felt like the question was asking, oh, are you kidding me? You are a mean boy.
yeah, this is a bad one.
Let's see.
That's true. Fixed dice could just solve this problem for us.
We are low level, so his HP is low. But yeah, if you guys want to talk about this guy.
So, Magimaster is the enemy you find at the top of Fanatic's Tower, typically in the World of Ruin. He does a wall change. He has, I believe it's 255 defense, which doesn't usually matter because you're fighting him in a place where you can only use magic, and he rotates his magic immunities and absorptions every single time he is attacked. So it's nice that we're fighting him in a place where we can use things like fight and lore. But he also has a lot of really nasty spells up his sleeve, and really we're just hoping to get some of these really good high rolls with those fixed dice, because they go, oh, you're 255 defense, how cute.
He has high evade too. You can sometimes get to him and just have no way of offensively hitting him. He also hits hard too. There we go.
All right. A very, very clean Magimaster fight.
Very nice.
That guy is scary. It's considered by many of you the worst fight in the game and all that. But you get a nice Mega Elixir afterwards, which will hopefully be handy come the final boss fight.
And
gold.
Oh, hey, look at that.
All right.
Swanson, take back what I said.
One of the strategies that you can use to get through Magimaster is to just slap wall rings on your characters and just sit there. Like,
Just
literally
bounce.
put the controller down, go make yourself a sandwich, go to the bathroom, come back, and in about 2 or 3 minutes, he'll probably, defeat himself with his own reflected magic, because at that point, as long as you don't do anything, he doesn't start triggering his wall change script, so he's just vulnerable to everything.
Yeah, so that's a pretty common vanilla strat. However, because we're playing with a setting called Scaled Element, it's a setting made so that bosses do more balanced attacks. So if you fight a boss earlier, instead of doing like Fire 3, he would do Fire 2. A lot of times what this means is that bosses end up doing attacks that they shouldn't have, and they'll do attacks that are magic but not considered spells. And so you saw that Flash Rain that Magimaster did is a good example of that. Unfortunately, that means that that can't be wall ringed as an example. So it's a strat that works in vanilla, but does not really work on all of our seeds, unfortunately.
Yeah, but there are times that you just end up seeing Magimaster and you go, well, I have to do something here, let's try this and hope.
Yep. And we luckily had a good setup. Throw lets you ignore the defense, the fixed dice you guys mentioned. So if there was a time to fight him, that was it. So here's hoping that we don't have any other mean guys.
And Blowfish is one of the rare things that does a perfectly fixed amount of damage. So having options with all of your characters to do effective things every turn is definitely a stroke of luck there.
And that's something that I like about Worlds Collide is that it really rewards a deep game knowledge. And so Blowfish is something that I don't think I've used a whole lot. like it doesn't. You a lot of times don't have it, and if you do, you normally have better stuff. But it's good to know that when you do have it for cases like this, where at least Cyan was contributing something that was like meaningful during that time. And so we have to kind of know, in theory, every ability, every rage, which is a lot. You know what different monsters like properties are and stuff like that, because you never know when you have to kind of abuse something in order to like win a fight.
Absolutely, and you know, just knowing what the various lores do, knowing rages is a lot. There are, what, 255 of them?
Yeah, I think I know 3.
I was going to say I might know like 10, maybe, on the best of days.
And how many times has that information been used?
Sometimes very. I wish I knew more rages than I do. A lot of times I have like a spreadsheet up I also don't have here. But it can actually be very useful.
And one of our quality of life changes here in Worlds Collide is actually has to do with this particular boss here, Rexol. Typically in the vanilla game, Rexol will inhabit one of your characters. You have to beat your own characters over the head until they get knocked out, and then Rexol leaves the body, and it's a whole thing unless you happen to have X-Zone at that point. And yeah, we just make Rexol not inhabit one of your characters.
Yeah, little tiny quality of life changes are like that, are things that the community has really put together and thoroughly analyzed. You know, what are the pain points of the game? Because, like you said, the point of the game is to have fun. And so if you, yeah.
Gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast. Need 3 hands. And so, you know, if the community encounters something that they don't think is fun, you can just change it. And have, often.
Yep. One of the very first things we changed when we started doing the boss shuffling around was making it so that Funbaba 3 was a flag that you could choose not to have that particular boss shuffled into the pool. That is the one that you fight in the World of Ruin Mobliz to help recruit Terra in the vanilla game, and he has an ability called Baba Breath, which blows 2 of your characters out of the party. That doesn't sound too bad until you realize that if he appears in, say, Kefka's Tower as one of the statue bosses and blows 2 characters out of your party, they go back to the airship.
And then,
ask me why I know.
How loudly did you scream the first time it happened?
The first time it happened, I thought it was hilarious. The second time I turned on that flag, I started apologizing profusely to everyone that I managed to do it to them twice.
So what we're racing here is a flag set we call it Standard Race, which is kind of what it sounds like. It's what is most commonly ran, and we have a regular ladder season that seems, I think it's like 2 months on, 2 months off, that we run this. But in between those, we run a whole bunch of other tournaments, some small, some big. There's a huge one right now called the Coliseum, and we normally run different flag sets for those. So like as a community, we really mix things up and have a lot of variety. In fact, I believe the current tournament right now, the Coliseum, has 14 different flag sets that could potentially be, you might have to play, one for each character. It's been very thematic, very fun, but it's kind of cool having all these flag sets because even though we have this standard race, we really have a lot of other events that really let us kind of try new things and everything.
Yeah, and the objective system is how we sort of craft these seeds, and that is everything from how do you open Final Kefka to you can have, if you fight a specific boss or do a specific check, you can have rewards, everything from, you can auto-haste your entire party to you can auto-condemn your entire party, or you can gain 40 magic points, or you can lose 30 speed. So it is a very powerful system that really helps you sort of craft these storylines if that's something that you're interested in. Doom is one of those statue bosses in Kefka's Tower that is often obnoxious.
I find him here all the time, like this spot in particular.
But again, we have the tool of those fixed dice, assuming that they roll anything above a 1, 2, and 3.
If they're fixed, shouldn't they be working better?
You would think. Setzer maybe I don't think is the best gambler. He did get hoodwinked by Celeste with that double-sided coin, so I'm starting to maybe question his gambling ability.
So, interesting thing to note, the fixed dice are actually fixed to favor the lower numbers. because if they were truly fair dice, it would be way too powerful.
Oh, so he is a bad gambler. Okay, so confirmation.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's lore accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you are playing with fixed dice and you're like, I see 1s, 2s, and 3s way more than I see 4, 5s, and 6s, you're actually not crazy.
That's comforting.
Well, I mean, you're not crazy for that reason.
Oh, well, that's less comforting.
Well,
One thing I want to point out here is you're probably wondering, why aren't I'm using Cyan at the moment? So if I attack with Cyan, whatever attack he's going to do is going to have an animation behind it. And he doesn't really have a lot of offensive options that I think are good in this fight. And I believe that it would be a waste of animation time to have him go compared to just letting the two people who can do damage fill their ATB bars up and everything. So that is what you're kind of seeing me do there, is purposely not use him, even though he could do damage, because it probably wouldn't be anything significant.
Right, if it doesn't save you a turn, then
Right.
it's essentially a time loss.
Exactly.
yeah. And looking at this, there's not very many places where your where your next character can be. This might be a floating continent required seed.
I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to do Word of Ruin to Zen first, but yeah, I think that's where Swans is pushing me. Actually, so that's actually kind of nice because I do have a Genji glove, so at least I can now double fixed dice and lean very heavily on that.
And that leads to some truly awesome damage potential.
Yeah, because this is what you want in a marathon, just depending completely on the RNG gods.
Yeah. If you didn't want that, why are you playing a randomizer?
You know what? You make a very good point. This is really on me.
A couple of other quality of life things. You might have noticed that most of the bosses are not flashing, and we have removed most of the flashes, which I truly appreciate as someone watching. And I believe we've also removed the timer here.
Yes, that is removed here. Not a character. Yeah, we're going to Flint Continent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that, or honestly, at this point, it's that Phantom Train or Kefka Narsh. At least Phantom Train I can peek, so I might do that first just so I can take a look at it. Now that I'm opposed to Floating Continent, it's just, my offense is only okay, and you gotta fight some bosses without saving beforehand. And I would like to avoid that if possible. So, yeah, we will take these because I want Katana Soul. Not you.
So one of the reasons why we removed timers was because everyone is, especially in a race situation, we're going to go through as quickly as possible, and the timer is meaningless, except when it's not. And if you are in a situation where there is a timer and you are the random fights there are the ones that are
Siegfried.
Siegfried, where he's going to talk at you for like 30 seconds at a time, or they're very, very difficult monsters or something where you could be locked out of a check through literally no fault of your own. So we just put in the option to remove the timers.
And what I'm doing here is also shuffled are what monsters that... So in the regular game, some chests have monsters in it. I think there's 8 total. And so we shuffle those. And so it's not random monsters. It's from a pool of 8. And one in particular, Katana Soul, drops a really good item that would work well with fixed dice. So I was kind of hunting for him a little bit. Obviously did not get lucky, but there are 2 monsters in the boxes there, so I was hoping that maybe I would run into him there, but no dice, pun intended.
Yes, and also, as someone in chat pointed out, it is possible and actually quite easy to break the timer and break the game.
And it is banned in tournaments.
It is one of those things that is so far above my head in understanding that I just go, oh, okay.
I do not want that price.
So this Thief and Zen can have an Esper, or it can have a random item, and the prices will be different between the World of Balance and World of Ruin. A couple of the other things that will vary between them is the treasure chests outside of South Figaro. As you noticed in the outdoors of that, Seto was able to collect all of those chests twice, once in the World of Balance, once in the World of Ruin. Just like in vanilla, any of those items that are available in 2 different locations, they are still available in 2 locations here to be collected twice. We are getting a little bit more item shopping done. Again, just want to be safe.
Rose little sleeping bags, so hopefully I should be set for the rest of the game on that front now.
Yep.
Especially if I don't get a 4th character. One less sleep bag to use per rotation.
Fair. Terrifying, but
Yeah,
fair.
it's looking on the bright side here.
We got a few donations.
Go for it.
Panic Moon donated $69.99.
Nice.
Nice.
Seto, that's provoke, not shirk.
Panic's our tank in our.
We also got a $20 donation from the Swans 27. Says, hey Seto, Rav, and Opal, thank you for showcasing this amazing game. Hope you enjoyed the seed that I handpicked for you, as I can already see it's been giving you joy. Down that clown. And then we also got a $20 donation from Double Down 11. Guys, thank you so much for those donations. And of course, you can donate by doing !donate in the chat. And of course, the QR code here live on the right side of the room. Thank you guys so much.
Shout out to Double Down, one of our admins. He's helped me out a lot with. Not that many. All right. Well, he helped a lot with both this and a panel that we are hosting tomorrow on Randomizer. So shout out to him.
Yeah, everyone who is here in person, be sure to check out that panel tomorrow. It's going to be extremely informative and entertaining. And I'm not just saying that because I helped with some of the graphics for it.
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure. You got this.
In addition, since we're doing some shout-outs, I've got a couple others that I want to make sure we hit. So our first one is Atmatech. He was the original developer and sort of the main developer of Worlds Collide. So we literally would not be here without all of his hard work, so thank you to him. Thank you to Seto for putting this all together. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Opal, for sitting here and making that I'm not talking just to myself. I appreciate that on a personal level. Again, the Chance for vetting the seeds, all of the admins of the Worlds Collide community, and Double Down again for helping with prep and graphics for a couple of things. So we are going to peek this Phantom Train check, and what peek means is we can sort of get an idea of what the reward is going to be before we go through the entire check. So we can decide if we are going to go through it.
A 4th character looks like.
There we go. So we have got a Setzer. So that means Seto is going to commit to this check and go all the way through.
Also, can use fixed dice. I can go buy more if I want.
I mean, if you want to commit to it, go for it.
I don't. You know what? I don't have a lot going on at the moment, so that might be where we go. We'll see. We'll see where the wind takes us.
And what you're seeing right there is another beautiful part of RNG in this game, where sometimes NPCs just say, "No, I'm standing here."
Yep.
Although an interesting thing about this, and this is true in vanilla as well, for those ones, the second ghost is always going to be the shop.
Yes. Which you saw me stop and use, actually.
So you know that, hey, that second ghost, he's going to sell me things.
We have a whole listing community of the NPCs that are the meanest, because there are a few in certain areas that are notorious for getting in your way. Ghosts, of course, are a big one, but shout out to my boy, the Garden Returners Hideout, and the Garden Imperial Camp, the old man in South Figaro, and the kid getting in the way in Nikea. Really, the MVPs of our community, they love adding time and handicaps to all of our runs.
Absolutely. So Setzer is going to open up a few checks for us. He is going to open up... Oh, Lord, help me. So I use a tracker when I run this, which helpfully has a little graphics and shows me, because my brain, things just fall out.
He's going to open up... wow, okay, I can think too. It's early in the morning. He's gonna open up Collagen, World of Balance and Ruin, hit Airship, and Durell's Tomb.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the Klingon Inn or Collagen Inn, no one is quite sure how to actually pronounce that.
Collagen's how I do it, but I also pronounce everything incorrectly, like Nikea's IKEA and South Figaro is San Francisco, because we forget SF, so don't look at me for actually how to pronounce this stuff.
Translation issues in a Final Fantasy game, well, I never.
No, translation issues on Seto's side. This is a completely man-made problem.
It can be two things.
All right, so here we are seeing some of the wonder of the fixed dice, doing a grand total of about 600 damage.
What am I doing? I just bought 30-some bolt edges. Maybe I should actually use them to save it. Saving them all for a rainy day. What are these elixirs?
I mean, I never ever use an elixir because I might need it later.
Right. Yeah. I will say Worlds Collide really broke that habit with games because, yeah, if you're speedrunning and the elixir might make it so you don't die, you end up using them pretty early on. So, but yeah, notorious in the Final Fantasy community of you save every elixirs, X potion, mega elixirs, because you'll need it for a harder boss. Even if you're at the final boss, you might need it later.
Absolutely. Another quality of life thing is, if you noticed when we jumped off the Barren Falls, the airship followed us. If we go through the Leet River or the Serpent Trench, the airship will follow us, because otherwise you would have to like march through a terrible, like long, boring section of map, and we all went, why?
Well, right, especially with the Moogle charm, so you're not getting random encounters. It's really a case of why.
Well, and with Worlds Collide was kind of designed with speedrunning in mind. I wouldn't say that's like the full focus of it, but things like cutscenes being removed, the airship being moved, sprint shoes automatically always being on, all those were things that were added as quality of life to make this a little more speedrun friendly.
I thought they just cut the cutscenes because they wouldn't make any sense at all.
Well, that too.
And also part of it is there is an amazingly small amount of data for one of these games. So when we're trying to pull, space to give you the message of that you just got this Esper here, we have to pull that from somewhere. And for the most part, that gets pulled from unused cutscene data. So we go, we're not using this, we're stealing your space.
Yeah, my understanding, I haven't done any of the actual programming with the ROM itself, but my understanding is definitely like take a penny, leave a penny kind of thing. You have to make sure the ROM is the same size afterwards, but it can't be lighter or bigger, which is, I believe, why Amitech said the Imperial Banquet stuff is just like, does not work. It will crash if you try to go do it and everything, because he's basically taking out whole sections of that to make other parts of this randomizer work.
Yeah, if you go into that Imperial Banquet, it will give you a whole bunch of items. It will just give you a whole bunch of stuff with the screens that say that, and then it'll just stop and be like, okay.
All right, good job.
Yeah, it I think it's the only major event in the base game that you will not see in the randomizer. Everything else you could potentially see, even stuff like the Opera House, which we will not do.
Yeah, you have some feelings about the Opera House.
Well, if I need to go to the bathroom, we'll do it. But it's just like a 4-minute cutscene.
And you can't get a character out of it, so...
Yeah, I mean, you can do the Opera House at Celeste and get a character, but you don't see the opera that everyone loves. Like, that is a separate thing. You can set it up to have that as a reward, whereas if you go, have it set so if you go do the opera, you get an item, or you can make an objective for all you want, but we do not do that in this seed.
Oh, all over. You are all over.
I thought it was aloe vera, the thing used for sunburns.
We've got to start keeping a running tally of those, see if we can start predicting bad patterns.
We have a lot of jokes about some of these mistranslations in the community, and we'll kind of mention some of them, like Poltergeist, when we get to it. Cool, and that's character number 5, so that's good. And we do have Dried Meat, which we'll talk about in a second, so that's also good.
Tritalk is another one of those bosses. It's not particularly difficult, but if you do not have fire damage or defense ignoring damage, it can seriously wall you early.
Yes.
So you could see, like, that fire scheme did almost 8,000 damage. Clearly we're going to be fine, but if we didn't have the fixed dice and we didn't have the fire schemes, there would be very little we could do other than, Blowfish right now, which would take
slot
a while.
And which slot's random, but potentially that. But no, actually Sabin does have fire too, also. But yeah, you run into him early, or you run into McKeff's Tower with the wrong person. It could be a wall, which can be frustrating.
Yeah. And so now we have Gao. Gao has both Runic and Rage. We do not give him a traditional fight command, but we have replaced Leap as well so that he's less useless.
Hey, look at that stuff before good use.
Or has a less of a chance to be useless. Although
fire 3 on this thing. Okay, well that's probably
nice.
important. Let's go do that.
My particular favorite Gao is Double Slots Gao. I have gotten double slots Gao more times than is statistically likely.
Well, they heard you liked RNG,
Yes.
so they put some RNG in your RNG.
So I can random while I random?
Yeah.
Shout out to Drulith, the winner of the GDQ race. He is a well-known lover of slots. I believe is his favorite ability, and he has a very good video that he made explaining exactly how to manipulate slots and everything with it. So they're not a command I like, but they are very powerful if you know how to use them.
And interestingly enough, one of the other changes we've made is we've randomized the RNG. Bear with me for a second. I know what I just said. I am aware of the words that just came out of my mouth. However, in the vanilla game, it is well known that if you use an echo screen, you can then force slots into Joker Doom.
Yep.
And that the animation from the echo screen is what sets the RNG value, something, something, something. I'm now talking above my head. We have made it so that, is it possible for you to manipulate the RNG? Yes. Do you have to figure it out each and every individual seed? What is going to set up the RNG for Joker Doom? Also yes.
Just bringing that element back into it, just so it's not. And that is something that the community also addresses with these changes is balance, because there have been a couple of things that the community has identified as, well, this is just the best strat, and why would anyone do anything else? And it's an ongoing discussion that happens.
Yeah, the big one being Super Balls, which I believe will be removed soon, is the rumor on the street. And it's not that they're broken; it's that, I mean, they are kind of, but I don't think they. I've crunched numbers. I don't think they save time, but everyone does them, so it kind of makes the game a little samey. If you're on the Super Balls, you have the same strat. I did not get them this time, so it's kind of cool. You guys get to see something that isn't that, but we're kind of over it. And I need 4 party members, not 3, or 3 party members, not 4. So that is dumb of me. I should have done this earlier.
Yep. So Gao opens up the Serpent Trench, a fight on the Veld where you can recruit whatever you find by using the dried meat. And opens up, oh Lord, my memory.
Service Trench, Veld, that's it.
It is just the 2. Again, this is why I use a tracker, and I have a huge amount of respect for people who can play this game successfully without a tracker, because I just sort of go,
Speaking of, I've gotten so many espers, I actually don't know what I have. So 9, alright, so we just need one more character and we're good to go.
Yep.
So we're rather low level, so we might go fight some dragons. Oh, right, you run into these guys on the Veld.
so
Yeah,
the,
as much as everyone loves Tomberries, not today.
They're slow.
on the Veld, you can run into any enemy pack that you have run into previously, and there is the basic single Lobo, which is also available there. So there's a very small number of encounters that we have fought thus far, so the encounter list on the Veld is going to be very small.
Yeah, you like to have Gal early because with it only the Lobo, you can just go through stuff extremely quickly. And we do have character number 6, so that's good. Where is that? There it is. So we are good to fight Kefka. I'm going to do some safety though, because I'm not happy with our offense right now.
Yeah, so our offenses are quite light right now. We basically have fixed dice, and then we have some meh other things going on. So
a couple of throw items and not even the best ones.
Meh.
Yeah, throw could be better if we had like an Atlas armlet. I think I have a hero ring I might put on him if it's not on him already. But yeah, we're gonna go fight a dragon, and then we're gonna go. I hate it. We're gonna check Coliseum, which we'll explain in a second. But I'm not happy about it.
Well, and the dragons, like the monsters in the box, are shuffled among themselves. So you're not going to encounter a dragon in the wild, but when you go and check where a dragon is, it's probably not going to be the right dragon for that location, which can lead to some weirdness.
Yes, it certainly can. And it looks like Seto is not happy with most of his characters.
Well, okay, so Celeste normally has high magic. I think we mentioned that stats can be 25% in either direction of their vanilla stats. I didn't check her stats, which was dumb of me, and I just was like, oh, she'll probably be good. She normally is, and she rolled very low on those on her stats there, which so I swapped her out, which is very sad, but we're doing what we got here.
And with the stats, that is something that, you know, you can keep track of and you can work around. But if you're just starting out, really the number one thing that's going to impact your damage is level. Gaining higher levels, I can get into the math if anybody really wants to, but level is in the damage formula twice, so it's squared, whereas something like your strength or your magic is only in there once, so it's not as impactful.
Right, and if there's any stat you're actually going to care about besides level, is magic power. All the rest don't scale well. Magic power scales pretty decently, and most attacks in this game are magic-based.
Even ones that you wouldn't think. Quite a few of the blitzes from Sabin are magic. For the Musclehead, it's very strange.
Yes. Yeah. All these skeins that you're seeing me pop are also all magic. Check these.
So we're looking through for a couple of rages in particular. Stray Cat is one of my personal favorites. Cat Scratch is the special ability for that rage, and it is just a 4 times damage multiplier to your base attack, which actually does work with fixed dice, which is weird because most other things don't, but for whatever reason, Cat Scratch does, and part of that is because they never expected Gao or a rage user to be able to equip fixed dice.
Yeah.
One of those, you can't get there from here, but now that you can, have fun?
Yep.
Also, big shout out to Blue Dragon for actually being a dragon.
Yeah, there's some dragons that aren't dragons. They're liars.
They're trying. They're doing the best that they can.
A Brontosaurus is not a dragon.
It's no transfer.
And I will die on that hill.
You saw me fight Ice Dragon earlier, and I didn't call it out, but he is not a dragon. I didn't want to embarrass him, but he is not a dragon. I don't know why I'm putting these on now. It doesn't matter, but
So we have changed the Coliseum. One of the things you'll see here is that for some of these, we can see what the actual reward is going to be. And nothing there. I think the best thing there was the Pearl Lance, and best is a generous term.
I would have, if I had a horn, maybe I would have done it, but I did not have a dragon horn, so yeah, I want levels, and this is probably the quickest one to do. It's a marathon, so if it wasn't a marathon, I would just do KT and fight it, and I forgot to put a Google Charm on. But hey, talk about levels. This should be
yeah, that's probably better than actually going to Kefka's Tower, or going to the dragon is just fighting some of these reach frogs.
Well, and the dragon will give me an item though, so I think I'll stick to it. But yes.
So when we're planning for Final Kefka, there's you need to have enough offense and you need to have enough defense. For offense, I'm looking for Tier 3 magic spells, as we've seen some Fire 3. I am looking for powerful physical attacks, so Fixed Dice, Aura Lance, Ragnarok, and Illuminas. There are a few other of those high-tier items, but some of those are going to need a dragon boots and a dragon horn so that we can jump with them. Some of them are going to need a Genji glove and an offering in order to really unlock their full potential. It really depends on what you can find. Sometimes if you find Blitz, things like Bum Rush are high enough offense. If you have tools, Drill is often very, very good because it ignores defense. It really just depends on what you can find. Hey, look, it's another dragon.
We're doing relatively well on dragons that are actually dragons. I really hope that everybody does get a chance to see Gold Dragon at some point, because I don't want to look like a crazy person talking about how there are brontosauruses in this game. I swear they're here.
Actually, the best regular enemy is a brontosaurus. They gives the most experience of anything in the game.
That one at least claims to be, well, it claims to be a brachiosaur, but, close enough.
Right. I didn't realize it was that in the dinosaur. We get different classifications of them.
Oh, certainly.
Oh, there's a sign out there.
Donald Duck, strongest black mage. Yeah, Donald Duck with his Zeta flare.
Yeah, so what is the check that Donald Duck unlocks in this game?
There's pigeons in this game, so I guess. Pigeon saves Celeste when she, spoiler, tries to kill herself halfway through the game, so sorry if I spoiled a game from 1994, not my bad.
Yeah, we did all collectively agree that 30-year-old games are not subject to spoiler tags, particularly in randomized versions where none of it is relevant anyway, right?
Right.
Okay.
So here we are entering Kefka's Tower. Now, if we had found a whole bunch more espers before we found our 6th character, or had found more characters than we needed before we got our espers, we could have unlocked the Kefka's Tower skip, which would have still given us this screen here, but it would have dropped our parties at the statues. So here you are, just like in vanilla, you are splitting into 3 parties, and you are going to have to go through the various puzzles through the tower. This is the reason why we actually start off with 3 Moogle Charms. From the very beginning of the game is already planning for you to go to Kefka's Tower, because we decided that moving 1 Moogle Charm around was just obnoxious and why.
Yeah, definitely. And the party composition at this point in the game is also something that there's multiple layers of strategy that have to go into it, because, you know, if you find your final character and that's the last thing you need to unlock the tower, who's going to get saddled with them as a teammate? You know, you need to put them with someone who's strong enough to survive on their own with some dead weight behind them.
Yeah, 2 parties are going to have to fight 1 boss, and 1 party is going to have to fight 3 bosses, and obviously not a full strength. So there's going to be a character who's going to fight 3 bosses, there's going to be a character that's going to fight 1 boss, and 2 characters that are going to fight 1 boss, with how I had this set up at the moment, which is a little nerve-wracking, because if we run into a strong boss here, it might be a worst case, we might have to leave and restructure our party, which we like to avoid. You know, if I had some real power horses, this might be a little different, but we don't really have that in this seed. Our offense is about average, I would say. So we're gonna. I'm a little nervous. Is basically what I'm trying to get at here. It's really going to come down to what bosses are here, and we might have to get a little creative. So it'll be fun.
And we can effectively remove worrying about the bosses that we've already fought. So Magic Master, like, off the table. So at least you have that going for you, because I've definitely seen enough of these runs where you bump into them with the wrong party composition, and again, you basically have to reset and reform your parties.
Yeah, he's especially nasty in the end.
Yeah, we still could hit Goddess, we still could hit Poltergeist, also known as Spicy Chicken. And now we're hitting one of the time sync bosses. As you can see, Seto is sitting there and actually timing this. So one of the things that we have also randomized is the specific amount of time. Instead of being a guaranteed 60 seconds, I believe it's from 30 to 55.
5 to 55, I think. We changed it recently.
Yeah, so, you know, the Rizzo Pass will not appear until a certain amount of time has passed, regardless of how many of the piranhas you actually defeat. So it's usually best to just sit around and wait for a second, and hey, look, there's Rizzo Pass.
Hey, buddy.
You're not going to do a whole bunch, are you?
He can be surprisingly dangerous. Another problem with Kefka's Tower having these smaller parties is, you can see Setzer just took a dirt nap as soon as he got hit, and it can be hard to heal here. So a lot of these bosses can sometimes just feel like a damage rush. You're just trying to do more damage to them than they can do to you, which goes back to what I said about my dislike of armor in this game. But sometimes it can be hard to figure out how do you heal in these fights when you only have one person who is alive. In fact, to play it safe, let's get you up and heal you up, and just throw some junk armor on you so you can use items, potentially.
Yeah, and from here to the next boss is sort of the longest stretch in Kefka's Tower, where if the next boss wipes us, there is a decent amount of work that needs to be done. You know, it's not a 10-second reset.
Especially because I'm about to do this, so if I wipe after this, it would be very sad.
Do we have some donations?
We sure do. We got a couple. 8 Prebs. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but he donated $20. Hey, Seto and crew. Enjoying the run so far. Excited to see you guys showcasing Worlds Collide. Keep up the good work. And we also got another $20 donation from Subsorian. Where's my Brontosaurus, Opal?
He's on
right
screen,
here.
on screen for you right here.
Right on time. Thank you guys so much.
I hope you're happy.
He looks happy.
Good.
So yes, and even in vanilla, the Gold Dragon is sort of like, it is a final Kefka's Tower boss, and you get there, and it's casting like Bolt 1, and you're like, really, dude?
Oh, yeah,
He's been waiting in that tower for how long?
Let's
A
not talk about it.
couple hundred million years?
Yeah.
Let's see if we do that. I think I did that.
Yeah, so I tend to prefer having some stronger defenses personally. I aim for consistency over the highest times, which is why I don't win tournaments. I tend to place very well, but I don't win them. So there are a lot of pieces of armor here that will, you know, absorb lightning elemental and just make this boss complete non-factor, like trivial. Nothing's going on.
To be fair, I have one of them, but no one can equip it.
Look, I'm sorry. And Setzer, we're gonna keep trying for you to be helpful and useful.
You do not have magic, so
I'm not hopeful.
like I said, so the other thing too, we haven't talked about weight tricking too. So you can do a trick, and you've seen me maybe occasionally do this, where I'll go into a menu and stay into a menu in battle. So when you're in a menu, the ATB bar freezes, both yours and the enemies. So if you're in a position where everyone else is, except for one person, has full ATB bar and their attack is queued up, you can just wait in the menu with the fourth person, and you'll be no penalty of your own, but you could be delaying the enemy's ATB bar. So another advantage of having Setzer alive is I can attack with Shadow, and then use Setzer to stay in a menu to manipulate the enemy to attack less. So there is another advantage of keeping him alive, even if he has no offensive contributions here.
And even just the ability to throw an elixir or an X potion is incredibly important. One of the things I noticed, I tried to play the Pixel remaster and immediately tried weight tricking, and it doesn't work. And I got annihilated.
Yeah, because the Pixel remaster was basically recreated from scratch. It's not the original engine. They rewrote the entire game for all the Pixel remasters. So, which is frustrating as a speedrunner who knows the mechanics and timings very, very well, because it is a Brave New World over there.
Yeah, it didn't go well for me.
It was also extremely glitchy from a speedrunning perspective when it came out. A lot of things just straight up did not work or were broken, but I believe they patched most of them at this point.
Yeah. So now we have 3 characters on 3 buttons. So Seto didn't hear the button actually click. He changed parties too quickly, so it didn't actually move the character onto that final button to actually hit it. So he did have to cycle through to hit that. And now here we are hoping for a very kind boss. Otherwise, we're going to have to go back and fight our Brachiosaur again. And it's Welka's fine. Okay.
It's a kind boss. It might be a slow boss, but he is kind at least. All right, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, good puppy.
Oh, we get a wild thing too. Good doggy. So yeah, you're seeing me sitting here in the menu. This way his ATB bar won't go up. This is especially important for him in particular, because after 2 turns he goes into his shell and sits in there for another 2 turns. You can't kill the shell. It counterattacks with a lightning attack if you hit it. So you're just sitting there waiting, checking your phone, you know, like reading your Twitch chat, whatever. So weight tricking for him in particular is great, because we could have had a big time loss there.
Yeah, the game is doing a really great job giving us opportunities to demonstrate things right after we talk about them. So once again, shoutouts for vetting the seed and somehow reading our minds on commentary.
Yeah.
I swear none of us have seen this seed before this moment, and here we have Goddess.
This is
Swans, buddy, man, what are you doing to me?
This particular fight is very challenging, especially because she can do Love Token.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be horrible if she does. But I think she decided not to.
So Love Token means that someone else will take any physical attacks for her. So if she used Love Token on Shadow, Shadow would literally fixed dice himself.
We would reset if that happened. Oh god, dang it. This might be a fight where we do a few resets and hope the dice roll well. Because we don't have that many other options. I can break a shield. We might be breaking a shield. Yeah, we're gonna break a shield. You're seeing here the problem with having only one character. She's hitting me harder. She's gonna 2-shot me, which means I can't stop and heal. Yeah, this might be it. Yep. So this is gonna be a little rough.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where you're finding that, the good enough is the enemy of the perfect or the safe, but the good enough is the best friend of going fast.
Yeah. And one skill that we kind of, that we see, that I think is flexed right here in Worlds Collide a lot, is knowing kind of when to call it. So in this case, like, I'm sitting here, I'm fighting, I'm fighting Goddess. If the fight's getting too drawn out and I'm just trying to roll well, which I'm not, it might be worth resetting and just trying again. And we see runners all the time, like, get into a fault, like Gambler's Fallacy, just sitting there and trying over and over and over again when it might be better just to reset. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Which
so
I might do here.
Love Token does make it so that if Shadow attacks, or anyone attacks, Shadow is going to take that damage for a regular fight command. He can use items, he can cast magic, but the actual fight command is going to be the problem. I'm not 100% sure what your best option here is.
If you have one, speak up.
I mean, you can probably start pumping in a little bit of damage with slots, but keeping him up just for X-Potioning is probably better.
That's what's going to happen. Oh man, that's really not doing a lot here.
Ooh, Lump is quite a bit of damage.
I'm wondering if this is better to kill him and revive him.
Certainly,
because then Love Token gets off him. Oh, why couldn't you roll that earlier, buddy?
But there you did see a great example of Seto doing the queuing up the menuing to make sure that Shadow got revived as soon as he went down. And now
4,000. That's not bad. That's a little bit better.
6,000.
There we go. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, one
100% skill there. There was that was all according to the plan.
That first death was RNG manipulation.
The pat myself on the back a little bit. That actually was good improv to kill him and revive him to get the Love Token status off of him. So that's one of the cool things I love about this is we see runners all the time and they're like, I'm stuck. I can't. This part in particular, where you're fighting these bosses that are pretty bad, and they're like, I'm stuck and everything. And sometimes resetting out and then just like coming up with a completely new strategy or moving equipment off other people or something can be, a pretty good way of handling it. I'm not happy I lost my I'm not happy that I lost my
shields.
Yeah, my 2 shields. But if I can't beat Goddess, I can't beat the game. So you kind of deal with kind of working with what I got here.
Yeah, it's sort of a more extreme version of the saving the X potion, saving the ethers.
I need somebody off Shadow.
Yeah, and to be fair, like basically the only other option at that point is to completely reset out, reform your parties, and walk through the entirety of Kefka's Tower again, which is something I have done. I have done in tournaments, I have done in races. Sometimes it's what you have to do, but it's something you try to avoid. And finding that line of like, when is it time to just, call it and reset out and leave versus when is it time to, fight your way through it.
Really great.
So we have Senor Behemoth here, Senior Behemoth, Strontium Behemoth, whatever you want to call him. We will actually fight both halves of the Behemoth, but, he is not...
We're going to redo our strategy on this one.
Yep. And again, knowing when to cut your losses, when to not just go, I've committed, I'm going to give it a try, I'm going to keep... No. I'm going to reset, I'm going to find a better way to get through this. And I wouldn't be surprised if it were
I think he can equip these.
going for the fixed dice on someone else, which is an entirely reasonable strategy. Because fixed dice, as long as you can equip it, you can... Yeah, there we go. You will be fine.
This is actually one of my favorite things about Worlds Collide is this improv, because like obviously Shadow's my fixed dice user, and come the final battle, he'll be back doing that and everything, but I paid attention at the beginning when I bought the fixed dice who could equip it, and I kept that in mind for this reason. So if I had to call an audible and equip someone else with it, I could. Sometimes even do it preemptively and just decide that's what that character is going to do. If, for instance, multiple can equip the Illumina, the best sword in the game, I'll just take it off the main person and immediately put it on the other person as soon as I swap their party to them.
Yeah. That is one thing to note. The best defensive item in the game is the Illumina, which is also the best offensive item in the game.
Yep, it's the best everything.
It's just, it is good at literally everything. You know, another option that could be done if needed, we have a lot of espers. We could change what spells, you know, take off a Moogle Charm, fight a couple of random battles, get a Fire 3, get a, you know, a Lightning spell.
I thought about, yeah.
You know, there are different options. And also, sometimes just gaining 3 or 4 levels is enough to sort of get you over that, that sort of hump. I don't know the answer to that question. Do you want to find out together?
Yeah, sure, whatever. Let's experiment. Be fun. Well, not if that happens.
So one of the flags that we have is called No Undead, which removes the undead flag from bosses such as the second half of the Senior Behemoth fight, because otherwise it would just be a Phoenix down and then you're done, and that's an unfortunate 4 attacks there. So we've removed that undead flag, so you can't just throw a Phoenix down or a Vivify on, you know, an end game boss and just win, because, come on. We like the cheese here, but that's a little too much. You know, that was a bridge too far. So we've removed that undead flag on them, but that doesn't mean they're immune to instant death.
Because those are 2 different flags.
That it is. So we were sort of hoping, you know, oh, maybe we can, you know, try getting a Condemned off on him, and, you know, none of us here on the stage are sure if that Condemned would work.
I also don't know if this is going to work, too. So, yeah, Phase 2 can be instant death, and Petrify, for a lot of things, kind of instant death, but not to everyone. And so we're going to see if this works on Phase 2 very quickly, because he has a lot of HP, so he can be a little powerful if he wants to be.
So we still see some of the abilities are being scaled to the level of the enemy. Scarbeam is a lower level Pearl element attack as opposed to the spell Pearl. I believe there's, 2 or 3 Pearl element abilities in the entire game. It is a very small pool to choose from.
Yeah, but you had to be creative with some of the scaling to kind of keep the theme, because of, yeah, like Revlin said, like, you know, how do you scale Ultima down? You know, as an example, what's a less powerful form of Ultima in this game?
Technically Quasar and Grand Train, but those are less powerful in the technically correct sense.
Yes, they're still gonna hit hard if they hit you.
Yeah, and then there's Meteor, which is, you know, getting hit with an oven mitt. Like, once again, we are seeing the wonders of fixed dice just deciding to roll how they choose to.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm excited that that's our strategy. Alright, there we go.
You know, it's one of those, we're playing the hand that we are dealt. We didn't find things that were available for, say, a Dragoon build with lances, and...
Luckily, if Celeste wants to take her time, you can hit him and wake him.
You know, we didn't find a Dragoon strat, we didn't find a lot of high-powered magic, we didn't find Illuminas or Ragnaroks. You know, there were just a lot of options that we weren't able to find this particular seed that we might find in other seeds.
Does not work, okay. Good to know.
I mean, if you've got Magicite, you could possibly try again, but, like, that's
mean.
Ooh.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
Rough.
So now we're gonna try a different strategy. You know, maybe we'll get luckier with fixed dice rolls. Maybe we'll go through the other branch as well, and then possibly leave this boss to the very end. And then, you know, if we have to reset out, it'll be the only thing we have left. There are still some options available to us. And again, this is that improv. This is the, hey, we gotta figure it out as we go. And, you know, there is not a guaranteed answer.
Yeah, I think we're just going to beat our head against the wall here, because I think resetting out is going to be long. Also, this is like not typically a powerful boss. Like there's a lot of problem bosses in the game. This is not typically one of them.
Yeah, when we saw him come up, I sort of thought, oh, okay, like we can get through this. But once again, RNG's gonna RNG.
Right.
Absolutely. And now we're finding Pearl as well. Pearl is a surprisingly less powerful spell than you think it is based on the lateness when you get it.
Nope, not phase one. Okay, I'm a liar.
Yeah, and the epicness of the animation. Pearl is frankly kind of underwhelming.
It's also the only downside of the
Yes, so interestingly, by the time you get Pearl element attacks, you get the Greatest and the Excalibur, and then the Illumina, which can proc Pearl upon usage. A lot of the final enemies are immune to Pearl, which is just sort of a cruel joke. Like, here's this holy element that, you know, you finally get and you don't get to use it.
It also takes a long time, too, so if you're swinging an Illumina and it procs, you're also speedrunning, and that could be, it could just be a big time loss.
Interestingly enough, Final Kefka himself is not immune to Pearl. And this is something I have learned the hard way on my own, as I have gone through a Final Kefka battle, swinging a Pearl Rod and nothing else, and doing the majority of the damage with Pearl procs. That was not fun. All right, Sir Behemoth, let's see. Are we going to go to sleep again? Please no.
Yeah, I'm really hoping not. I think he does it on his first turn, and he didn't. I think it's part of his script, so I think we're good now.
You know, there are a lot of enemy scripts in this game that, like, I know pretty inside and out and, like, have a pretty good idea.
Right.
There we go. I gotta admit, Senior Behemoth, not on the list of enemies whose scripts I've memorized.
It's one of those things where I won't say I have it memorized, but you get like a feel after hundreds of these runs that you have like a general idea. So I think, because I've only seen him do it like at the very beginning, so I think that's kind of how this goes.
Absolutely. Now, as we are getting through this and saving and doing some menuing, one thing I do want to do is throw it out to all of the people watching and all of the people here. Please join our community. Please come and play games with us. ff6worldscollide.net.com.
.com for FF6WC, or do we change that? We're in the process.
We are in the process of launching a new website. ff6wc.com will get you to the previous version, which will also link you to the Discord. And really, the community is in the Discord, as in the server. We have entire video walkthroughs of like how to play your first seed, where you can play the same seed as the person on the video. I say the person on the video like it's not me. It's me.
It's you.
You can play a seed along with me. And, you know, really set this up in such a way so that, you know, we try to make it easy for people to join the community. You know, you can end up sitting here and watching one of these runs and sort of get really intimidated by like, oh, these people they're so skilled, they're so good at it. Hey, we all started somewhere, and we have really worked very hard as a community to make onboarding and like joining the community and just getting started as easy as possible. So please come join us. Jump into the Discord if you have any questions. Just ask. We have the Beginner's House channel. There will be people there to answer your question basically any time of day or night. The community is spread out over the entire world for the most part, so someone is up who will want to answer your question.
I like to point out that so when I structured my party, I put 2 on the right side and 1 on the left, and I knew the right side was stronger, so of course I got the harder boss on the left, which happens pretty much every time I do that strat. So I should just pick one and then reverse it at the last minute is obviously the real strategy here. So that was a little unfortunate, but we're at the last boss now, so that's exciting.
Yep. So we are getting ready, doing the final menuing, and then we're going to go into the final Kefka battle. As you may remember, if you've played the vanilla game, it is 4 tiers. Each tier, except for the final tier, has multiple parts. Each part does different things, and there's going to be a lot of things that Seto is going to do in order to account for the things that each tier is going to do. So, you know, there'll be certain tiers that he's going to kill in a certain order. He's going to try to mute certain enemies. And we will try to point those out as we go. But if you have played Final Fantasy VI, this Kefka fight is going to look very familiar.
Yeah.
But in another act of kindness to those of us who do a lot of racing of these seeds and like to go fast, we've cut out most of this cutscene. There's still a little bit. There's still a little bit of this cutscene, but you know, not nearly as long as it is in the vanilla game, because resetting here does happen. You know, Final Kefka, despite being a known entity, can absolutely decide to end your run.
Oh, yeah.
And
yes.
has.
And he might. We'll see.
And, you know, each tier has different ways that it will just go, no.
I had to think for a second. I made the mistake in a practice last night where I did not pick the right characters.
Yep. So we take our 4 characters into this final fight. First thing we're going to do is we're going to Shoat. Shoat will hopefully petrify one of the arms, which will remove it from the battle entirely. It did. Awesome. That is one of the audio cues that we like to listen for. The next one we are going to want to take out is the face, which is weak to fire. Taking this out is going to ensure that we don't get some nasty counterattacks when, because each piece as it dies, if it is the last one, it can do some pretty nasty counterattacks. The one that people probably remember is Quake. Even for a spell that you can get very, very early in the game, Quake can still wreck you at this point.
Yes, I would advise against that.
So yes, it's typically take out the long arm with some form of instant death, take out the face, then take out the short arm. Those are, as far as I know, the official names of this particular
it's Statues
formation.
of the God A through F, according to the Pixel Master, which is so much lamer. But everything else, even like Final Fantasy Record Keeper, they're called basically long arm, short arm, face.
Yeah. And so casting Phantom on the party has made them all invisible, which makes them immune to physical damage, but it does mean that magic will 100% hit them.
But he has none of that, so that is triple sizing this fight, by the way.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Tier 2 does have magic. So typically Tier 1 is one of the easier ones to handle. It can get challenging if you're using something like a Genji Glove and an offering combination where you can't target what you're going to hit. And if that spread damage just happens to take things out in the wrong order, it can cause you problems. But when you're able to control what's going on, Tier 1 is usually pretty stock standard.
Yeah, this is the tier that's going to make me nervous, because we don't have instant death. We do have Siren, though, so that is good. So yeah, if you guys want to explain Siren and then kind of what the strat here is, because a lot's going to happen.
Yes. So we're going to want to Siren to begin with, and Siren is going to cast Mute on the entire enemy party. And that is important because the character in the very back, I was about to say the blonde one with the ponytail, but there's 2. There's 3. Awful. The one in the very back, furthest away from the party, is named Magic, and he casts a lot of magic.
What?
The naming convention is just so creative. But he's vulnerable to Mute, and if you cast Mute on him, he just sort of sits there.
Yep, so he's taken out the fight. He'll have a death counter that's nothing except for a time waste, but other than that, he is basically dead. So, yeah, yes.
So that takes that out. Now, the machinery sort of next to the lady in the red dress, Tools is often the next target because it can do a lot of nasty things as well. It is vulnerable to instant death, so if you have an instant death at this point, you know, Doom or Sword Tech 8 or, you know, other things, you will often use it here to take out Tools. But we don't have that, so he is sort of the next target. Tiger Face also does a lot of nasty things. You'll notice that Tier 2 just does a lot of nasty things. just sort of as a general statement. And so the goal here really is to sort of focus them down one by one.
And you're seeing this now, so Shadow here just got frozen, so he can't move. And then you got Zombify, which I didn't even know you could Zombify when you were frozen. So that basically puts a Berserk on him that I have to heal him out of right here, which is sad. Also, I was Tigers who I was taking out non-tools. Now I'll take out tools. But they're both nasty in their own ways. See a Bolt Edge, even split damage, I don't know. It might do more than Shuriken.
Yeah. So this is definitely one of those tiers that you are planning for the entire game. You're looking for mute, you're looking for ways to deal damage to this. You're also, in particular, for Tier 3, which only has 2 pieces, you absolutely are required to have non-elemental damage. If you're using magic as your main source of damage, you need to have a way to do non-elemental damage. If that's attacks, if that is the spell Flare, which is fine. It's slow, but it's fine.
Damage is good.
It's damage. I've even had to go through with like Meteor, which is awful. Slow and weak, but the girl in the next tier absorbs every single element, so you absolutely have to have a non-elemental way of dealing damage.
Also, one thing is, because of how this is coded, there's not really death animations for these guys. There's a small audio cue, a little poof, the same one that happens when you kill a normal enemy, and that indicates one of these parts are dead. So if you're wondering whether some of these parts are dead, that's how I'm kind of telling. So there are 2 left. There's Hit, the front guy, and Magic, the back guy.
One thing that can kind of surprise you out of nowhere with Hit is his death counter is 10 hits. Once again, these names are just the absolute most creative part of this game. And 10 hits hits you 10 times.
Which we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And if you're not prepared for that, if he's the last one, he can absolutely just take out 1 or 2 of your party members, which if your party members are dead in the phase transition between tiers, they get replaced with the people who are sort of your backup party, which is not great.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't do Hit last. I purposely did him second to last in order to prevent that, so I have time to heal and revive anyone. We're going to take this slow. So the other thing you're noticing is I don't have any healing. I have life 2, but there requires someone to die, which maybe is faster than kill people just to revive them. So I'm kind of just trying to get a little bit of health going here before the next phase, because this guy can't do anything right now, so I might as well take advantage of it to obviously a time loss, but to play it safe and to get some healing going.
Yeah. And if, we found more elemental shields or were able to equip the Minervas, we could do healing with, say, the fire spell. One of my personal favorite strats is called Merton. It is a spell that hits everything on screen with both fire and wind damage. So if you get so that you can absorb fire, you can heal yourself while damaging the enemy. It's great.
Well, to be fair, we did have 2 elemental shields.
Had.
They were well used. That was a good use of it. Elemental shields are actually one of my favorite things because they're a big decision maker. Because you can use them like I did in battle, do a lot of damage one time. You can use them for defensive properties, and they also early on teach level 2 magic, which while not amazing, early on could be what you need to get by, wherever you need to get by. So I like them because there's a lot of good decisions. If you break one early on a boss, you might not be able to learn magic, but it could kill a boss you wouldn't otherwise be able to kill. And in this case, you saw me in late game decide I was going to forgo the defensive later for the immediate kill this really hard boss.
Yeah. So now we are getting to Sleep and Girl. Again, creative names. Girl is the girl in the back with the long hair and the no body. She absorbs every element. She has 9,999 HP and will revive Sleep if he dies before she does. That's unfortunate, because she will cast Life 2 on him, which brings him back at about 10,000 hit points. So you've done all of this work to get rid of her, or get rid of Hit, and then he just comes back. Hit sort of...
This is a problem. I guess you forgot to equip Golem.
Oh. So Hit does this thing where when he dies, he will counterattack with Calmness. Calmness is a physical instant death attack, which means that Memento Ring will not protect you because that protects you against fatal magic. But Calmness, because it's a physical attack, you have a chance to block it, which is awesome. If you have Fenrir, you can cast Fenrir, and that will absorb the Calmness attacks. If you have Golem, you can cast that, and that will absorb the Calmness attacks. If you have particularly high evasion, you can just get missed. Or we can, you know, occasionally, which has happened to me, forget to equip Golem and just have to hope.
You know what? This has been an RNG seed. Of course, that's awesome. I thought that would be enough to kill him, but, you know, sure, let's...
The other nasty thing that Hit does here is cast Meteo. Meteo, interestingly enough, is
Really? Wow.
only 80% accurate.
Count.
So you have a very good chance of it missing at least one character. Unfortunately, we
What?
didn't see that.
We might say that here, because I thought he had a lot less.
Train does both blind and mute on all of your characters, which is real rough as well. So hopefully this throw... Okay, there we go. We've got Calmness, and... Oh,
Good boy. Good boy.
Good boy.
Good boy.
Whew. That
Yeah, so
was...
no big deal from here, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like I said, don't worry. All according to plan. Everything
Yep.
you just saw there. It
Oh.
totally didn't screw up and get really lucky. No, that was... you're seeing some top-tier speedrunning going on here. We do have to heal. We have to start hearing the silences and blinds that are going on at the moment. And that's going to be not fun. But I don't need to do it on Shadow or Sabin. I just got to do it on Gal and Cyan. Pretty much just Gal, actually.
Best laugh in all of Final
Yeah,
Fantasy.
I appreciate that everyone chose to respect the laugh.
So, Kefka has quite a few cycles that we keep track of when we're going through. One of the most important cycles is the Goner cycle, where the screen will start shaking. He's charging up Goner. And you might hear Seto is counting damage. Ooh, look at that, quad nines. Fallen One happens after a certain amount of damage, but it is absolutely possible to do more damage and totally skip the Fallen One step.
Nice.
What? So Heal Rod has the unfortunate property
right. I
of
forgot about that.
if you typically swing with it, it will target your own party because it will heal them. You know, you've healed your friends by bashing them over the head with a stick, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
all the time.
Cool. Unfortunately, that does come through in the throw menu as well,
Good
where
boy.
it will not hit you or heal you.
So at the minute it leaves your hand,
Yeah,
it does damage again.
correct.
Yeah, just like a real stick.
Yep, 100%. So once Kefka gets below roughly 10,000 HP, he has a chance of counterattacking any action that you do with the Ultima spell, and that is Bad News Bears. However, when he is charging Goner, he cannot counterattack. So Seto has been counting some damage and is going to try to plow through the rest of the damage here during this animation, where he cannot counterattack. And this is going to rely on the dice. How are they feeling? Marginal at best.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. Gal and Shadow should live.
So what we're hoping here is that at least one or two characters will live through the Goner, and they probably will. At least I'm pretty confident about Shadow living through it.
Get Sabin back up too, just to make absolutely sure. And
There we go. Here's Goner.
we're also going to be a little risky. We're just going to quick and dice after this and not wait.
Yeah, so this is one of those moments when you are in when you're in a race and you don't know if anyone else is in the same place as you, you've got to make the choice of like, do I go for it or do I play it safe?
And that's it.
Triple fours, there we go.
Yeah.
That's gonna do it. Time.
Hey!
There we go. Very well played. Very well improv. You know, dealing with some very interesting situations as we go through. Once again, I do want to thank a few people, including Atmatech, our original developer, Seto and Opal for being here on stage and for setting all of this stuff up. The Schwantz for vetting the seed. I blame you. All of the other admins for the community, and Double Down in particular for helping with a lot of this prep and graphics.
Yeah, I think that kind of went through the majority of it, and thank you for everyone in the crowd, everyone who donated. Of course, that's the important part. It feels great for a dumb hobby to help, like be used for a good cause. Kind of shows my parents everything when they said I was wasting my life playing video games as a kid. Instead of studying, that at least some good came of the world from this stupid hobby that we really, really love. So, so thank you to all of you for donating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.